Welcome to Journey with Scriptures, where Bible and life meet together. My name is Peter. Today we celebrate the second Sunday of Lent, and the topic is the vision of our glory. Enjoy this episode, share it with others. God bless.
In the first reading today, God gives two promises to Abraham: an heir and a land. Both promises are of staggering proportions. The offspring of the old and childless Abraham will be as numerous as the stars in the firmament of heaven, and the borders of the promised land expand from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates. And yet, as we move to the second reading, the promise given to us surpasses even those given to Abraham. Paul speaks about our glorification. I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans. The same formula will appear again at the beginning of the Decalogue. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. In the terrifying darkness, Abraham hears a dark prophecy of his offspring's enslavement in Egypt. And yet, Benedict XVI tells us, taking possession of the land in Palestine did not constitute the chosen people's entry into salvation. The people needed more than that, a real liberation, a more radical exodus, and a new Moses. At the Mount of Transfiguration, Jesus talked with Moses and Elijah about his exodus in Jerusalem. The last book of Moses, Deuteronomy, contains a promise about a prophet like Moses. And the last among the prophetic books, Malachi, contains a promise about the prophet Elijah and the coming of the Lord. The hope of Israel and the whole of humanity is going to be realized. At the cross, that more radical exodus, a real liberation from the power of sin and death, takes place. And Jesus, the Lord, fulfills the role of a new Moses. There were three major festivals in the Bible: the Passover, Pentecost, and the Feast of Tabernacles at the end of the summer, September, October. The Feast of Tabernacles was the most joyous festival. It was a time of gathering a ripe crop from the fields. At the same time, living for 7 days in the tents, the people recalled the journey of their ancestors through the desert. But the Feast of Tabernacles was pointing towards the future as well. It was filled with hope that one day God will gather together all the scattered tribes of Israel. This eschatological harvest has already begun. Through Jesus Christ, God has begun the process of gathering not only the scattered tribes of Israel, but all the nations into the church. In the terrifying darkness, Abraham hears the news about his offspring's enslavement and liberation. From the cloud that overshadowed and frightened the disciples, they hear the commandment, "This is my chosen son, listen to him." Up to now, it's been the Torah and the prophets that guided the lives of the people of Israel. They were supposed to listen to Moses and the prophets. But now we're called to listen to Jesus, the living Word of God that became flesh. Although it is good to be here, We cannot celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles yet. We need to come down to face the mystery of the cross that permeates our lives. We need to wash our garments and make them white in the blood of the Lamb. But one day, we shall celebrate that feast in our heavenly homeland, in the communion of saints, transformed into the image of God's beloved Son.